All right, guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay Will. So sometimes you'll see me do a lot of things like living with an iPhone X, living with a Galaxy Note 8, living with yada yada yada. Well, sometimes I need to do this because I'm actually using these phones. So I wanted to give you real world experiences from your man Jay Will, how I am coping with using certain devices. You guys know that, again, I've said it a million times, iPhones are not at the top of my list for daily drivers. But since everyone in my family has an iPhone, I'm almost forced to keep an iPhone on deck for iMessenger and FaceTime and things like that, because I don't normally carry my MacBook around or my iPad Pro around with me. So the iPhone 8 Plus, as you know, I told you guys a while back, I prefer the iPhone 8 Plus over the iPhone X. A lot of people said, "Oh, you're crazy." And a lot of people said, I did the same thing, Jay. And there's nothing wrong. Whatever your choice is, it's your choice. But this phone pretty much has the same internals as the iPhone 10. I think it's a win-win. I think you're getting a more canvas. The experience will be a little different because you don't have to worry about fitting the screen or anything like that when you're watching video. The 16:9 ratio is still my favorite ratio. Although the 18:9 is growing on me because of the Galaxy Note 8, which I'm recording this with. The 18:9 ratio is growing on me. And it's just one of those things that might take me a little bit of time, but I'm still loving the 16:9 ratio. And, I really wish Apple would go ahead and bring a Quad HD display, a real Quad HD display to this form factor. 16:9 ratio, Quad HD display. It's not that they can't, they're just choosing not to. So that's just the way they operate, man. They do what they want to do, and they tell you buy it or don't buy it. That's pretty much what it is. So this phone right here has a 5.5-inch 1080p display, and it's not the best 1080p display, but it works, for what it is. And the fact that this phone has a 1080p display, it is fantastic on battery. iPhones are already really good with standby time and just regular usage. And then on top of that, to push this 1080p display and the way the Apple iOS operates with phones, the standby time is ridiculous. Battery drain is super slow. So it's a win-win if you have an iPhone, period. And most iPhones users I know have fantastic battery life. They say this over and over again, and my battery life is great, and that's just what it is. So using this thing daily is not very difficult, man. Taking aside all that spec stuff, that, as I just spoke of, the battery is sick on this phone, man. I mean, it literally lasts for a couple days. And people always say, Jay, how do you keep saying you're getting all this good battery? And I don't know. I'm just using my phones, man. I'm just using it for what it is. Let's go into the battery right now and see what it's talking about. Um, let's see here. See if we can give you some usage here. Last 24 hours, 5 hours, and 28 minutes of usage, 20 hours of standby time, and 59% left. This is what it is. You can see that I'll do a lot of iMessage, a lot of YouTube, and a few phone calls, and then some social media down there. But other than that, it's just a good experience. The phone is good on battery, and that's just what it is. If your phone is not good on battery and then it can't make phone calls, what's the point? And phone calls on here, I do way more phone calls than I do like text. I may get a lot of emails and texts, but I just call people, and call quality. T-Mobile has T-Mobile Wi-Fi calling, and it's pretty good. But overall, calling experience is greatly improved over some of the other iPhones that I've used, especially the iPhone 7 Plus. The call quality was kind of bad on that phone. It was just always a bad signal. Well, this phone right here, man, the call quality has actually been fantastic over T-Mobile. Just haven't had any problems with it, and it's also good over Cricket Nation as well. So no issues with that at all. So obviously, I do a lot of SMS with my family, and it's just what it is. Those three things to me are very important: phone calls, being able to get SMS from my family, and then battery. Those are good. Now, one thing I do think is fantastic about this phone is the cameras. The cameras on this thing shine bright like no other. the fact that it has 4K at 60 frames per second is a huge plus. However, I still want Apple to make a simple adjustment, man. Let me go into my settings from the actual camera. I don't know why this is such a big deal with them. They just refuse to do it. I have to go into the settings just to make a change. Like, what if I didn't want to do 4K at 60 frames per second? I have to go into the settings of the device and change that. Why they have it like that, I don't know. But, getting over that, though, these rear cameras on here are absolutely great, folks. I mean, you could definitely, and I've put up a video already on how to run your YouTube channel with just an iPhone and an iPad, and it's totally doable with these phones. Even if you're not going to do 4K at 60 frames per second, you can still do 1080p at 60 frames per second, or just regular 1080p, 720p. Either way, the footage that comes from these cameras are absolutely great. I just don't have that many complaints about it. I really like the footage that I get from here. Photos are pretty good. Video is pretty good, depending on the lighting. And for most cell phones, you have to have that right lighting. And because if you don't, you'll know. You'll see instantly. That doesn't look too good. I have to get some better lighting. But the iPhone does well overall, especially at 4K at 60 frames per second. It's crispy, man. I've got a couple of videos up. It is crispy. It's crispy. As far as RAM management goes, this has 3 gigs of RAM with the Apple A11 Bionic chip. And, Apple's, the way they do their operating system and the way they handle applications, it flows, man. It's just what it is. The way they operate the applications in the background, it helps the phone out, with performance. And I don't do a lot of gaming, but I have done some AR gaming on here, and it was pretty cool. I just don't do a lot of gaming, period. But, that's not what I use the phones for. But other than that, man, I mean, there's really not much to say about using an iPhone. They're pretty bland, but they get the job done, until Apple will allow some widgets on the home screen or something like that. Because right now they just have the widgets over there on the side and on the locks on the side screen over there on the lock screen. I think it's on the lock screen too. No lock screen, just that side panel. But that's not really helpful. No, the notification shade. That's what I was thinking of. But other than that, it's just an iPhone. And it works for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have problems with it. I personally don't have any problems with it. I just want them to capitalize. I would prefer that they keep this large body right here and stretch my screen out. Go ahead and make this a 5.8 inch or a 6-inch display, or just, shrink the button down a little bit. Do something, Apple. Innovate some kind of way, take a risk. Don't be too scared to do anything. You got dual speakers on here, and these speakers are loud, man. I mean, the speakers on here are super loud. You got one down here and then one in the earpiece, and the speakers are just really, really loud. I can appreciate it. So when you're using a phone day to day like this, I don't normally, I have like, you're not gonna believe it, but I just ordered some more cases, but I have just a few cases laying around that I just keep on hand just to switch the phone in and out, depending on where I'm going to, where I'm leaving the house. I'll grab whatever I'm feeling at the moment. And I have a boatload of cases for the iPhone 8 Plus. But it's just a matter of how you're gonna use your phone. I do a lot of phone calls. I mean, like a lot of phone calls, and because it's a phone, so I want to be able to make phone calls. So, how do you use yours? Do you do a lot of SMS? Do you do a lot of email? Do you do a lot of social media? I do all of those things, but really, phone calls is like the top of my list of how I'm using my phone. So, this is the iPhone 8 Plus, and living with it actually is pretty simple. No problems. Shout out to the East Coast, Jersey in the house. But I mean, I like this form factor. It actually made me appreciate this form factor after using the iPhone X. And I gotta tell you, the iPhone X is nice, but I still favor the iPhone 8 Plus. I'm not into just following what everybody else is saying. Oh, this the future. Okay, that's your future. This is the future of Apple from where I sit. This is what I appreciate. And, the iPhone X is cool and everything, but I just like this phone better. So living with the iPhone 8 Plus, super easy for me because it's not that much going on, but it's enough to keep me entertained. Especially those little games within iMessenger. You can play games within iMessenger with your family. It's pretty cool. I mean, there's a ton of games in there that you can play. You just go back and forth playing the games with your people, to kill time or something like that. So It's your man Jay Will, living with the iPhone 8 Plus, super easy, and I really appreciate those cameras they put on here, folks. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.